Hey everyone, welcome to my show. Be sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch for all my exclusive content. Hello again, Star Wars players. Wanted to do a quick video here for everybody. Wanted to talk about one of the new Set 22 objectives, the Dark Side Hoth-Walker objective. We've seen multiple variations of Hoth objectives over the years, going all the way back to the early virtual cards and even through the Legacy era. Rada didn't change several times, and then it went away. Even more recently, we've had the slip sliding away version, starting the 5th marker, slip sliding away to get the 4th marker, and then just setting up damage on Hoth without trying to do all the blowing up the main power generator stuff. And last month, we got Set 22 released, actually earlier, at the beginning of this month. We got Set 22 released, which presented the shield will be down in moments objective. And I kind of wanted to go through this, share my thoughts on it. At first glance on paper, I'm not a fan of it. And we'll explore that why as we kind of go through it and go through all the cards. But let's just sort of take a look at it from the beginning. CRG was kind enough to share a replay of his game against it the other night. So thank you very much for sending that over. But let's take a look at the actual objective here. So as you can see on the screen, you start by deploying the 5th marker, the 4th marker, the 1st marker, and the virtual prepare for a surface attack. For remainder of game, you can't deploy Rebel Base Occupation. Okay, people aren't really playing that anyway. You need the Hoth system to put it on. Kind of divides the deck into 2 theaters, which it really has trouble defending for a long term in both spots. No Sun's down. That's going to eliminate a bunch of the other cards. Exposure, Frostbite, that kind of stuff. Or Dark Jedi except for Vader. So no Emperor, which means no Emperor shuttle package. No Darth Maul, no Count Dooku. Dooku not really a big deal, but Maul's important and the Emperor's important too. Taking both of those away is pretty significant. AT cannons may not fire during your control phase is also another issue, because it means then, first off, you can't use sniper or anything with it, but more importantly, you can't play the traditional target the main generator, because that one fires in the control phase. Echo Base Sensor is canceled. That's a light side card that is kind of problematic, so canceling it, because it stops you from moving when you deploy to Hoth. Your opponent activates a force, and the character or the AT can't move for the rest of the turn. And since you have to deploy and walk your way in, Echo Base Sensors would be really kind of broken and shut the whole deck down. While this side up, once per turn, you can download a Hoth location. That's free. Opponent loses no force, no more than 1 force, to you may start your landing. So the card that does the ping damage for having a walker at a marker site, limited to 1. Flip this card if main power generators blown away. If you blow up the main power generators, which is the objective, which takes you a few turns to do, but if you manage to accomplish that, light side loses 5 force. Traditionally, they lost 8, but this version, you only lose 5. While this side up, attrition against opponent is +1 for each Imperial leader in battle. All right, kind of steering your deck a little bit in terms of deck construction, wanting to maximize on those leaders. There's already a bunch of leaders you would normally play: Tarkin, Veers, Thrawn. Depending on which Vader you use, he might also be a leader. So there's a few guys already being included in that. Rebel Leadership and We're Doomed are lost interrupts, so that's both the regular We're Doomed and the Escape Pod combo version of We're Doomed, which is what you would use to shut down the damage from you may start your landing. Your opponent may not have to waste a grabber on it anymore, because they can just make it a lost interrupt. Unless you're doing something where you're constantly retrieving, whether you're playing Luke or Celebration or something, they don't have to waste a grabber on it. So that's at least a little beneficial for them. The attrition +1, all right, might come in handy a little bit. How many leaders are you going to get in a battle? Maybe 2, maybe 3. General Navarre, some of those other guys. If you build your deck a certain way, maybe you get it to like a +3. Once per turn, you can get a Snow Trooper. All right. Interesting. Once during your control phase, you can choose retrieve the bottom card of your lost pile into hand. Okay, recursion a little bit. That's not bad. Or peek at the top X cards of opponent's reserve deck, where X is the number of Hoth locations you control for a place in any order. So you control 3 Hoth locations, let's say. You peek at the top 3 cards of their deck, put them back in any order you want to, and that's at the start of your, this is during your control phase. So you can do it at the start of the control phase and then do some damage and make them top deck cards in a certain order, have to choose how they want to do that. Or if you do it at the end of their control phase and then go to deploy, in which case you're eventually going to battle them in certain areas, you know what their destinies they're going to draw. So a little bit of manipulation there isn't bad. Could set up some certain things. Place out of play if you do not occupy a Hoth site with an AT-AT, an Imperial Leader, or a Snowtrooper. So if you basically don't have any of these 3 things, your objective just goes out of play. It's not like flip it back, because you can't flip it back, then you'd have, it just goes out of play. So you lose all the benefits from above. On paper, it seems like it's going to take a lot to do, and the benefits for doing all that and putting all those cards on the table aren't the greatest. CRG is playing Hitco, which already is not the best matchup for this deck, for walkers in general, because the Hitco is just going to hang out at its own 2 sites, right? You've got the Ewok Village here, says no starships or vehicles, and you've got the Death Star 2-2 site that also is interior, so no vehicles are going to end up going there. And because the objective limits, the only Dark Jedi they can play is Vader, there aren't really a lot of characters you have to be afraid of. Mara, lightsaber, okay. You could play, because you're not limited from playing non-Imperials. So you could still play Mara, you could still play Aura Singlet Blaster Rifle. They don't have a lot of synergy with everything else you're doing. But, are they necessary cards? Maybe. To try and keep your opponent honest. P-59 is another one that comes to mind. Are you going to try and use them to keep your opponent honest? But they are taking away from your main deck theme. So this is already a bad matchup right off the bat here. You may start your landing, as we talked about, doing the direct damage. Also gets you the 3rd marker, which you will need. Inconsequential losses is chosen by LR Craft here to start. Lets you forfeit your AT-AT cannons into your used pile. Forfeit value of 3. Okay, not bad. And then code clearance to boost forfeit value of your unique Imperials of ability 3. So those guys get a nice little forfeit bump. They go from being 5s and 6s to 8s and 9s. And a number of those ability 3 guys are Imperial leaders. You're opening up the character selection a little bit wider with that. The prepare for a surface attack over here. Cans deploy -1, fire for free, add 1 to armor. Armor is going to be important for protecting against under attack or them using weapons like Chewie with bowcaster or whatnot to hit your opponent, to hit their vehicles. During your control phase now, you can upload non-Jabba's Palace vehicle weapon without lost in game text. So you can't get the AT-ST cannon, which is one that makes people immediately lost, and you can't go get the double laser cannon from Jabba's Palace, which is a 7, because then you could do things like that with manipulating, with stacking it, putting it back, or using it for like lightsaber combat or something, which is definitely not what's intended here. You can get a Hoth icon device, or you can also get, I think that's deflector shield generators is probably what they're looking for there, most likely, or a Hoth epic event. But since you can't fire AT-AT cannons during your control phase, you're not getting the traditional target the man generator. You're going to have to get the new virtual version, which fires outside of that. All right. A lot of people might choose to start Endor Shield here as another option, because you're going to help it use it to get people like Ozzel, Thrawn, Mahdi. Those are all Imperial leaders. That'll let you save your Imperial commands and things for like Veers and other characters like that. He did pulled the 3rd marker and Walker Garrison V, another new card. If your Hoth objective on table, the Lost Interrupt, you can use it to upload Veers or upload an AT-AT. You can also cancel a force drain at a site if your AT-AT is at a related battleground, or you can use it to retrieve an AT-AT cannon. So not doing the force drain bonuses that the traditional Walker garrison was doing for having walkers at 3 sites. This one instead, you're taking it into hand automatically. You're pitching a Lost Interrupt to get your Veers to kind of get your deck rolling, or to get a walker for one of your other guys to occupy if you already have part of that together. He then also played Death Squadron Assignment, which uploads a card with Death Squadron and lore. There's a couple of characters that can get you, Admiral Ozzel being one of the more notable ones. It can also get you Blizzard 6 and Blizzard 8, I believe, are the 2 walkers offhand that it can pull. And he did use it to get Ozzel. The objective gets you a Hoth location, so he grabs the 7th marker just for an extra 2-0. If you control and main power generators on table, force drain -1 here. If you blow up the main power generators, it is no longer on table. It's now an unnamed site. So light side, this would become a drain of 2 for them again. So something else to keep in mind, could potentially hurt you a little bit there. All right. And here's the other card. Target the main generators, the new virtual card. Deploys on the ice planes, so it starts on the 5th marker. Once per turn, a player who controls this site may have this card follow their vehicle, moving from here to an adjacent marker site. Kind of like the Insidious Prisoner moves in the Stunning Move deck. At the start of your deploy phase, if it's at the 3rd marker or lower, your AT-AT cannon here may fire if within range of the main power generators. It can fire at an adjacent site. That's what the AT-AT cannon can do. So if you're at the 3rd marker and there's no 2nd marker on table, you can shoot. If the 2nd marker's on table, you got to walk 1 more site, or you need that Electro Rangefinder, which is another one of those Hoth devices that you can take into hand. It's Destiny 6 too, so maybe that's a thing you could do some manipulation with if you wanted to. And this is how it fires. It's during deploy phase. Fire the cannon. Draw Destiny. Add 1 for each marker site you occupy. 2 if you control it. If your total is greater than 8, the main power generators is blown away. This is not as easy to pull off as the non-virtual version, because the non-virtual version lets you add for a pilot's ability instead. So getting a higher ability pilot like a Thrawn, a Mara Jade, a Veers, a Vader, kind of makes it a little more guaranteed to pull off. Your average pilot, let's say it's Veers, he'd be ability 3, and if you control a site or 2, maybe you're getting up to like 5 or 6, you only have to get greater than 8, it's a little easier to pull off. With this, add 1 to your total for each marker site you occupy. Well, if you occupy the 2 battleground marker sites, we'll say, that your deck puts on the table, that's 2. Means you got to draw a 7 to get it up, assuming you don't control either of them, if your opponent blocks you. If you control both of them, well, you're adding 4 to your total, so now you only have to draw a 5, which seems a little more realistic, but there's way too many ways for your opponent to mess with you to make this even harder to accomplish. Kind of what the point of it whole is, right, from the movies. They set up in the trench, and they fought back, and, eventually the Empire did manage to overwhelm them. But your opponent also isn't just playing a bunch of snowtroopers, they're playing a bunch of actual real characters. So not as easy to walk your way through all that stuff, as we're going to see a little bit here. Also, because it starts here at the 5th marker, and it moves when you move, 5th to 4th, 4th to 3rd, following deploy phase. So now you're talking about like turn 3, turn 4 at the earliest to even have a shot at trying to blow this thing up, which for a lot of other decks is slow, and you're not really doing a whole lot of damage to your opponent before then. He sets up with the Blizzard 1. This is the virtual Blizzard 1. The non-V Blizzard 1, not nearly as good, but it does also add 1 to the total if you wanted to try and go that route. But this version, much stronger, immune to under attack, draws an extra Destiny while Veer's piloting. I think, is it in Veers' texts. No, either Blizzard 1 would work for adding the Destiny to power. Light side's just going to do their things, draw some cards, pull their sights out. He gets his Yoda's Hut. He gets this going. He's going to take his time because he doesn't need to rush because there's no need. Your opponent's doing 1 ping damage from you may start your landing. Probably not going to pay 3 to drain for 1 at the 4th marker. You know, you had to go to the 5th marker and walk your way in. Against like a normal start for a non-objective walker deck, this whole thing would have gone right to the 3rd marker. He'd ping for 1 and he'd probably pay 3 to drain for 2, or at least consider it. Start causing your opponent some valuable force loss here. He does get the Hoth system with the objective. He's worked his way into the 3rd marker here at the middle of his 2nd turn. The Blizzard Scout 1 will follow. But even still, right now, not really a threat to blow this thing up. He controls 1 site. He's adding 2 to the total. He has to be greater than 8. And I'm not sure. Add 1 to each of your weapon destiny draws here. Your AT-AT cannon here may fire, so this should work. You should be adding +1 for the firing. We'll count and see how it totals it when he actually does it. But even still, you're adding 3. You need greater than 8. You got a top deck of 6. Not a lot of 6s in the deck, especially without Emperors. Maybe that Electro Rangefinder, maybe a Masterful Move Interrupt or something, or a Furry Fury, maybe an Admiral's Order or 2, which would be another way to cause some direct damage with the, we're in attack position now for having commanders and generals at related battlegrounds. It's going to put a lot of cards on the table, this Dark Side objective. Light side's just going to take a peek, see what he's got going on here, and then, you know, he can reasonably set up Luke to this site, Obi to this site. He's going to flip his objective, which will let him retrieve a card. It'll also let him set up, you know, some solid force drains. He can drain for 2 and for 2, and once the prophecy moves, that'll be 3 and 2. Or if he gets Decree out, it'll be 2 and 2 at each one, because he'll lose the lightsaber bonus. But you're doing a solid 4 damage a turn to your opponent very early on, putting very few cards on the table to do it. And he's also getting 1 retrieval a turn. He retrieved Chewbacca Protector. His opponent let him do it there. He's going to activate. He's going to get another AT-AT cannon. He'll cause the 1 ping damage. He's going to attempt to fire the AT-AT cannon. He draws a 4, which you add 1, 2 for the site, it looks like, because it says it's a 5 in the chat. So it looks like that's working right. And then you're adding 2 to the total because you control, so you're at 7, and you need a 9. So yeah, you still needed to draw at least a 6 in order to make this happen. All right, hang on a second. I'm missing something here, because it said he drew Blizzard 4, which was a 4. Does anything add to the Destiny number? I don't think so. Maybe you're getting the... oh, there you go. When fired by target, the main generator adds 1 to the total. So you're adding another 1 from the AT-AT cannon. All right, so that's what I missed. I knew I was missing something. So he drew a 4, which became a 5 from the site. He added 1 to the total, which was a 6, and then he added 2 more because of the text on target the main generator, which got him to 8. So, all right, so my math was slightly wrong. He only needed to draw a 5 there, not a 6. Still, not the easiest thing to do. Blind this early in the game. So now he's got to set up a second site. Then he'll only need to draw a 3. That's a little more reasonable to do. There's a lot of Destiny 4 interrupts in these decks. So he's going to get that Thrawn out. Interesting. Okay. He puts another AT-AT cannon on it. Ozzel moves over to the Blizzard Scout 1, which can move as a react. Just in case there's a battle at this other site, he could react to either cover both locations. Light side looks like they're just going to pay to drain for 4. Nope, he's going to move the Our Only Hope now, which his opponent is going to grab. That'll give him the extra 1 from Prophecy. So he's going to drain for 5. Or at least for 3. He might not do the second drain. He might want to deploy 2 characters in battle or something instead. Yep. He is going to deploy in battle instead, it looks like. I think it is docking bay first. He's going to use Ahsoka. And he's going to use Lando. Now his opponent did not save any force, because he spent the force to grab the interrupt. So now Blizzard Scout 1 cannot move as a react, so you don't have to worry about him canceling the game text of Lando in this situation. Consider that a slight misplay. He's going to play a Jedi Presence to double Lando's power. That's an interesting card. We don't see enough of these days, but nice little move here. The AT-AT is going to shoot from the adjacent site, and that should hit Lando. He's going to play Director Krennic to take that card into hand instead. That does hit Lando. Doesn't make him forfeit 0, though. Just makes the guy hit. Now he's going after Ahsoka. Should have done him the other way around, because if you're firing the gun from here, that one would, I think, get the extra weapon destiny bonus. He drew a 3, which became a 4. Looks like maybe it didn't get it, because he's firing on a guy at an adjacent site. So I'm slightly wrong about that, too. 0 for 2 today. But there's a couple battle destiny. He draws an 8. Thrawn's going to cover 9, so that's pretty good. But he's going to be down a lot in power. He draws Agent Callus for destiny, so he's got a 1. So he's down 17 in power. He's got a stack of card. And, looks like he's probably going to retrieve some, or forfeit some stuff here. Thrawn's going to go for 9. The gun can go used for 3 more. That still covers 12. And he's going to forfeit the Walker to cover the remaining 5 battle damage. And then Ahsoka's going to move away, where she can't get shot. She's out of range of the AT-AT cannon. He'll take the gun back into hand. He'll look at his destinies. He's looking for a 5 again. And again, most Dark Side interrupts are 4s. The majority of Dark Side interrupts are 4s. So needing a 5. Now we're on turn 4. Nope. Trample, Imperial Command, Sith Fury, they're all Destiny 4. Death Squadron assignments, those are all the types of cards that these types of decks would like to play. And they are not able to do so. Well, they're able to do so, but it's not going to satisfy what they need. You're looking at 5s, you're looking at things like even the Death Squadron, the shield generators are 4s. Blizzard 4 is a 4. For random cards that are Destiny 5, what are you looking at? Like a Cold Feet, Force Push, maybe a Omnibox Shuffle combo. So this battle goes very favorable for Darkseid. They lose Tarkin. Ahsoka's going to have to die because of the attrition. But now he's stuck in the spot again. Is he, paying to move Vader or leaving Vader there? He leaves Vader at the 2-0. But that keeps the light side's objective flipped. It's another thing, not getting a lot of force generation. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. One for you is 11, you know, then depending on what your opponent's giving you. But everything you want to play costs like 6 to 8 force. You want to play a Star Destroyer or two. You want to play Walkers, Vader. That stuff's all expensive. Imperial Artillery, there you go. That's a 7 you can play. Cause some extra direct damage for sure. Masterful Move combo and stuff like that are also some other 5 or 6 Destiny interrupts you could play. He's going to put Ezra and go after Vader. He played Unita to take Ahsoka back into hand. Okay, Ahsoka's going to get barriered. It would go lost, but instead he's just going to grab it with the grappling hook just in case his opponent has any other ones. And he's going to drop Daughter of Skywalker as well. So you've got Daughter and Ezra battling here against Vader. Vader could try and blind choke somebody, but instead, Daughter's going to try and cancel his text first. If nothing else, it gets rid of that Chewie that he's been drawing for Destiny the last couple turns. He's getting outpowered here 11 to 6 as well, so even if Vader somehow survives this, alright, so much for that plan. He would only be adding 1. He would lower it from a 5 to a 4 needed to draw for Battle Destiny, or for Weapon Destiny over here. That would do it, but he can't activate to it yet because he's got only 12 force that he can activate. So again, Dark Side getting beat up a little here. Didn't say it was the easiest matchup, but just in terms of how slowly things are progressing, they've caused very little damage to their opponent. They're just like ping for one, because you can't afford to pay to drain, and you can't afford to put stuff on the ground, and since you can't run Emperor, you can't run the shuttle, which is a much cheaper space option. So it's like, what are your options in terms of setting up, you know, in space to get around battle order, battle plan? Mara in ship, maybe. You could play the bounty hunter ships and just float those and hope you draw into them. But for the most part, you know, you're kind of restricted and you're not really, you know, other decks may give you a little more force, which may make that a little bit better to work with. But just the inherent speed of the deck here fails again on turn number 5. And this was always a problem sometimes with the old Walker objective decks. If your opponent disrupted you enough, you just never blew the thing up. And because so much of your damage is limited on the front side, you know, you're locked into trying to do things to do this. Whereas you might instead take a different approach and just be like, how else can I kill my opponent? Maybe I'd send Vader over here to fight Obi, kick him off this, you know, prevent extraditional force loss or things like that. Might have been an easier way to go about things. But because you are desperately trying to do things on Hoth, you're continually committing forces over and over here. You can see he's already down to 20 cards down. He's only got 2 in hand. Meanwhile, his opponent's at 27 with 5 in hand, so light side's still reasonably far ahead. They've won the first couple of battles. He's paying to drain here now for 3 and 2, because there's not much else he needs to do right now. Give Luke a bionic hand just because he can. He's got a mountain of good Destiny draws in there. EPP Han, not something you usually see in Hitco. Usually it's a Han Chewie Falcon combo. He will react this time around, and he has the react canceller. I guess that's another thing to be concerned about. The free ride combo, the Odin Nestler combo, all cancel reacts. Like there's also a couple characters that do it as well that you might see in like a no idea deck. He had a pile of high Destiny left, so you know, Han's going to shoot some people and he's going to draw some solid Destiny. Gonna win another battle, stack another card. Speed this up a little bit here. Alright, there's an image of the Dark Lord for a 6. That he actually might be able to get close to. He lost a card from reserve deck, so now he can actually get to that 6. And Krennic Sergeant Major Bursk. While in battle, Hoth adds 2 to attrition against your opponent. So the 6 became an 8 for attrition purposes, so that's why I had to lose both characters. Okay, and the flip side of the objective would let you pull Bursk if you were flipped. But we're not there yet. He's going to pull Piet. He's got the 6 set up, so there's nothing that he can really do to stop that unless he can find a thing. Oh, he can make him shuffle with the grappling hook. So he just moves Ahsoka away. He'll give up control of the site, I guess. I don't know that he needed to move here. He does make it easier for his opponent. Maybe he forgot about the grappling hook that he can make him shuffle with. He did also see him use an Imperial Command and take Piet into hand after the battle. Oh, he used the grappling hook. Alright, so let's back up for a second. So a weird series of events here. He used the Imperial, the 5th marker's text, put the artillery on the bottom of his reserve deck and exchanged it with a card from hand, with the bottom card of his reserve deck. So he put the 7 on the bottom. CRG's response here was to use grappling hook to shuffle his deck, which would not have been the right time to do that. He should have waited until he recirculated, so he could have shuffled both the 7 and the 6 around. So once the deck was shuffled, LR Craft played Imperial Command, took Piet into hand, because his deck's already been shuffled. So facing Piet in this walker up against Ahsoka, it's like 8-7. I don't know that I would have moved here just for that, with only one other card in his hand. He does opt to move away. By moving away, you're giving him control of 2 sites now, so he's adding 4 to the total, plus 1 here. So basically he only needs like a 3 to blow this thing up, whereas he would need a 4 if you were in front of him. Worst case scenario, you would just lose Ahsoka. She should cover everything, but you might not even take battle damage there in that case. And then he draws a bunch of cards and passes the turn. And now, because he didn't shuffle right, that's the image of the Dark Lord that's sitting on top. So he is going to pay to drain, causing 2 force loss. Now during the deploy phase, he'll attempt to blow this thing up. He'll draw the image of the Dark Lord for the 6. That'll finally get it. That'll cause 5 force loss. So finally getting to do a little bit of damage here. And there's Piet coming down to that site. Darkside's going to no escape to get Krennic back. Put Krennic down with Veers. That's going to move to there for free. This walker, the ATST, will also move over. And now it's just pay to drain for 5 and trying to outrace your opponent. He's got nothing left in hand. He's got 9 cards down. This game's over in 2 turns if he does nothing else and just moves Ahsoka away. but he's also going to, play around a little bit here. He'll move Cassian into the Wampa Cave, which is no longer being modified here. It's a drain of 2 because main power generators isn't on the table anymore. Best he can do is pay to drain, and then like he would do 2 ping damage and chase Ahsoka around. He did have the escape pod word doomed, so instead of losing 2, he's going to lose 1. But Kraft already knows there's nothing else he can deploy to do anything about this. All he can do is chase people. If this was a differential tournament, yeah, he could cut some diff. If this is a match play situation or something, he could cut some diff down. But his opponent's just going to out damage him for the rest of the game. So you're putting a bunch of cards on the table. You're limiting your ability to do things in space. And you're not really getting a whole big benefit for flipping the objective, which takes you quite a while to do because of how what you're looking for in terms of drawing destiny. So it turns out to be a little better than I thought it was at the start of this video, but I probably still wouldn't play it over the non-objective version just because of how much more flexible you are, both in terms of what you're trying to do throughout the actual lines of play within the game and how you're building your deck in terms of deck creation. You're opening yourself up to, more options and more opportunities. Let me know what you think about the objective down in the comments below. Curious to hear your thoughts as well. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you somewhere else. See you around the galaxy. Take it easy.